This help video is on our new GPSBT and BTIMU modules. The purpose of the video is to illustrate how you can connect these modules to Syvecs devices. We've done videos on how you can connect them to OBD2, and you also have the ability to select and connect them to OEM cars or other aftermarket ECUs via the predefined menu. But the purpose of this video is to actually showcase how this Syvecs product can actually communicate with our range of Syvecs ECUs and the options that are available there. Now on this video I'm actually going to be talking about connecting it with an S7 ECU. Now the reason I want to do this is that with multiple different installations and plug and play or installs, or if you've got an expander module, the CAN bus connections probably do change for each one of those specific packages. So I'm going to go over all of those and get you up and working quickly. Now you can see that I've got two open pages of the SCAL program here. SCAL actually allows you to be able to communicate with the engine ECU on one panel, and also our modules that have a USB connection on the other panel. So I'm just going to connect to the S7 on the left, and then I'm just going to connect to the BTIMU on the right. So you can actually have two versions of SCAL open with two modules connected and communicating at the same time. Now, the most important area of the SCAL, of the BTIMUs and the GPSBTs that really users need to mess around with is the data stream and the CAN speed options. Now, this one I've got here is actually a GPSBT. So you've got the options to transmit the GPS frames with the GPSBT. The same as our GPS modules. Now, if you haven't got the requirements to be able to get the GPS frames via those identifiers set there, you can disable this frame, and then you can transmit them on your own custom IDs, etc. if you want to as well. But the purpose of this is we just need to basically determine whether we need to have the CAN terminations turned on or off, and what the bus speed needs to be. Now, CAN 0 predominantly as default with our units is set at 1 megabit, and CAN 1 is generally set to 500 kilobit. We suggest that CAN 1 is the one that is used via OBD2, and that CAN 0 then is the one that is used for engine ECUs and stuff like that, mainly because the GPS frames are transmitted back on the CAN 0. But they can also be sent on CAN 1 if you're connecting them to a Plus installation. And again, I'll go over that in a bit more soon. Now, we're going to focus on CAN 1 here, CAN 0 here. And because we've actually got an installation where this ECU is connected with an OEM CAN bus, C8 and C9, which are the ones for the OEM car, is not actually accessible to be used. Now on this S7 there is a spare CAN bus which is available on B2 and B3. Now as general, B2 and B3 is set as 1 megabit. So what we're going to first do is make sure the CAN 0 bus speed is set to 1 megabit, and then we're going to go over until the S7 and we're going to set up the CAN 2 bus speed to be 1 megabit as well. This way the two CAN buses are able to communicate with each other. Now, in order to then send data to the BTIMUs and GPSBTs, probably the best thing to do in this is to actually use the S7 fixed stream. Now, this won't be as standard in the transmit content area of your S7 area calibration. So what I would actually suggest you do, head to our forum, go to the S7 section, and then go into the fixed DBC and data stream. I would then suggest you download this calibration here, and once it's downloaded, use the pastecal function to actually then be able to pastecal those in and copy those maps over. So I'm going to actually just do that now. I'm actually going to just download this calibration. Now I've downloaded this now to my desktop, and I'm going to now use the pastecal function to basically compare this. So I'm just going to go pastecal load, scroll to the bottom, go to desktop. And you can see here you've got the default stream. If we double click on that and open that up, you can then see the differences that are highlighted in yellow. Now what you want to do here is, if your identifiers are different, you want to just basically go to pastecal and then import map, and that will import that map from the other ones from the forum. Same with the frequency, and then same with the content. Now, one important thing to do here is basically, if we just tag that, it will basically illustrate that there's some maps in here that have not been set correctly. What you can see here is there's some items that are set as not set. That might be because that feature is not available on that ECU. You just need to set that as spare. And then when you do a device program, basically the unit will then come online and be transmitting that CAN data. Now, if you are then presented with an error down here in the bottom right, that CAN 2 is maybe not available, this could be due to the fact that you've got something connected to a slave. I can basically simulate that here. So if I go and assign something like the clutch position to say slave 2, when we then program that, you're then going to be presented with an error in the bottom right hand side to basically say generic CAN TX is not available. In that instance, if you have got an expander connected on the CAN 2, what you can then do is actually set up the GPSBT and IMU modules to actually tee into the CAN bus from CAN 2 to the expander. Now, the expander CAN bus runs at a much faster speed of 1.3 megabit. If you are doing that, you need to first of all then go back into your GPSBT module and set the CAN speed here as 1.3 megabit. And then make sure obviously you're connecting to the correct CAN that you're changing the speed on. So for this one, I'm changing it to CAN 0 and I'm changing the speed to 1.3. You don't want the CAN termination turned on in this instance because the CAN bus will already be terminated at the engine ECU and at the expander module. Once you've done that, you don't actually then need to do anything in terms of the transmit content or anything like that. And if you have got an expander and you've done this, you need to set this frequencies all to unused to get the ECU back online again. Now, once that is done, the Syvecs CAN slave link will automatically be sent down that CAN stream. And if you go into our module into the Syvecs dash app and you select CAN 0 as your source, you then just select the predefined CAN of the S7, and that will then automatically pick up the identifiers in either of these scenarios, whether you've got an expander or you're using the CAN 2 with the generic CAN transmit, and it will then populate all of the items for you. Now, if you've got an S6, an S8 or an S12, you need to pay attention to be slightly careful here, because if you've got a plug-in kit, it might be that the transmit content that is being set in here is already predefined for a plug-in kit. If that is the case, what I would actually suggest you do is basically go into the Bluetooth and app, the Syvecs Dash app, and select a predefined setup of the S8 and S12. Then, when you're in there, you can actually go into the predefined area in the application and it will show the active CAN slots. What you need to do at that point is marry those up with the slot allocations that you're seeing in the SCAL calibration for the engine ECU. I will show that on the screen as we've been talking about this, but in this video when I'm actually recording it's not done, so I'm going to overlay the application stuff so that it's just actually quite obvious as well.